to hear 6 months later, a year later, that their leadership team is still functioning differently because of the work that we did, that's the holy grail, I think.
Yes. So Joe is kind of sharing the holy grail of leadership development on this episode, and it is going to be amazing. And if you're very interested in seeing what gamification can do for you in terms of retention, of crushing churn, please make sure you go and get our free resource. Using gamification for that can be a game changer as well. So make sure you go to the link, click on that, or DM and go for that resource, which I am sure will be very useful for you. And engagers, welcome back to another episode of the Professor Game podcast. We are with a very special guest. As always, we have fantastic guests. Today we have Joe. But Joe, before we introduce you, we need to know, are you prepared to engage?
I was born ready.
Let's do this. Dr. Joe Lasley is an assistant professor of leadership and organizational studies at the University of Southern Maine and the founder of GameNamic Leadership. Did I get that one right?
Yes.
Where he merges academic rigor, of course, as a very good researcher, with the imaginative power of tabletop role-playing games to transform individuals and teams, how individuals and teams learn to lead in the real world. He's an International Coaching Federation certified leadership coach, has a Ph.D. in leadership studies and degrees in organizational psychology, higher education administration, and organizational communication. He teaches leadership development, systems thinking, organizational and group dynamics. And of course, he focuses on experiential and transformational learning. He's published a bunch of research, peer-reviewed, on leadership development through role-playing games, action research projects. He regularly presents at national and international conferences, including International Leadership Association, National Communication Association, and North American Simulation and Gaming Association. Engagers, you can see why he is on the podcast. But Joe, is there anything that we're missing from that intro?
Well, it's a pretty good list of some of the major things that I'm affiliated with and that type of thing. I would say, currently, I think I'm in the warlock phase of my career, where I am trying to channel greater power through, relationships with the beyond. I'll say that, and trying to bring the magic out into the real world. So,
sounds brilliant. So, Dr. Joe, there are many different aspects that you are handling and juggling right now. If we were to follow you around for, I don't know, a day, a week, whatever would describe your life a little bit better, how would that look like? What are the kinds of things you're doing? How would that feel like?
well, there's not really a typical kind of day. There's lots of different kinds of days and things that I do. I live in Maine in the United States with my dog Buddy, and so when it's nice out, I might be on the deck in the yard reading or journaling or meditating, those types of things, or hiking. I also might be playing games. That's me as a person. And then in my role as an assistant professor, I might be prepping a course, teaching, reading students' work, or working on some research collaborations. I like to do a lot of collaborative work. So it involves a lot of reaching out to people, having meetings, coming up with ideas, co-creating whether it's research or other initiatives together, those types of things. And I teach at all three levels: undergrad, master's, and doctoral students. So sometimes I'm talking with students about org theory and it's their first time. And other times I'm working with people who are forging ahead to create new knowledge and coming up with new ideas and ways of seeing the world of leadership or those types of things. And then in my role as a coach, or actually sometimes in my role as a professor, I might be doing coaching sessions with students. Leadership coaching and action learning and transformational learning and experiential learning are pretty common staples in my teaching, but they're also things that I do as a consultant. I might be traveling to facilitate for a group, or doing a workshop that's a part of a series and ongoing for an organization, or going to a professional association conference to either present research or facilitate workshops to help people develop. So do all kinds of different things, and different days take on different flavors.
Lots of stuff going on, that is for sure. And let's actually shift gears for a second here. you know we'd like to talk about fail or first attempts in learning, and especially because that those are the places where we learn the most, because it's the way in which games we learn so much. So let's talk about one of those times. One of those, I don't know if spectacular or not, but one of those when you would maybe call your favorite failure. One of those times where something really went wrong and you learned very interesting things for your future endeavors.
Yeah, I like the way the acronym first attempt in learning, because I wouldn't have considered this a failure. I would actually consider it a success as a gamer and as a person who uses role-playing games and the experience of role-playing games as a lens through which to view what is leadership. And I fully embrace that perspective. So I like that, because I never would have considered this a failure. A couple of years ago, I did a pilot program, which was a leadership coaching group using a role-playing game. And it was actually more a role-playing game trying to see how leadership coaching could emerge while I was facilitating the role-playing game. We would set some intentions with the group, but I wanted to try it out. I'd already done a bunch of research and was continuing to do research and develop different ways to use the role-playing game experience as a leadership development activity in and of itself, which is a little bit different than just, oh, there's some learning outcomes mixed in, or gamification kinds of things. This was more, how can I make these experiences simultaneously kind of emerge here, or try to foster that. And it was a huge success in the sense that we discovered this really does work. It's very deep psychological like elements that are emerging when people are playing, and we're getting into some areas that are huge blocks or areas of potential for people, and having deep insights, which is sometimes very uncomfortable. That kind of disequilibrium that is a precursor to transformational learning of realizing a blind spot or something like that. And for most of the participants, that was very generative for them. For one of the participants, it was an area of shadow that they had not been prepared to confront. And so it was a very intense and overwhelming experience in that aspect of it, the experience. So I learned, hey, I was right. We can access some really foundational and transformational elements of group dynamics and personal psychology. And in my role as a facilitator, because I was both the game master and the group coach, I have lots of training and experience as a group relations and leadership coach. I also have a lot of experience and research and training as a game master. And so I thought I will be both of those roles in one. And man, even for me, that was a quite overwhelming amount of facilitation and things to pay attention to, and psychological safety to create, and all of those types of things. And so it was great in the sense that that was the foundation of there was proof of concept. Like, it really does work. The magic is real, but also the responsibility and the psychological load on the facilitator of being in two roles at the same time was quite a lot. So gave me a respect for the process.
I've heard this whole thing of taking on roles that, you usually see them separate, and there being reasons for them to be two separate people, and people saying, well, I'm very good at these two. I'm done it myself, don't get me wrong. And then actually going into it, full confidence, very prepared, and so on and so forth. And then it's like, well, maybe there was a reason for there's to be two people, even if the two people are doing the exact same thing, but they're being actual two separate human beings doing that. Is that one of the lessons that you took away, or did you manage to streamline this and to make it into a single role?
Well, I mean, the simple way to say the takeaway is, this dual role is a lot more than, and I had anticipated it being a big thing to pay attention to, but I, was given an even double down more expensive experience of that. But I think the more nuanced thing is learning. I got a lot of the context and the complexity of what it is like to be in that role, and different situations with different people, and different types of leadership role-playing games I call them the lead RPG, because it really is a combination of two things, or an integration. It's not just adding one to the other. It's its own thing when you combine them in a certain way. And so now there are some engagements that I do where we will have two facilitators. There will be a coach and a game master. And so then the flow from session 0 to pre-work to game session to debrief and coaching kind of works in tandem with those two roles. And there are other times where I will be able to be intentional about how to play the dual role and how to set up the context for that to be successful, both for me as the facilitator and for the participants with what we're trying to get out of it, and how, things like the length of the engagement, the type of relationships, and then also the type of intentions for how people want to learn and grow. If it's about understanding some way that strengths combine on a team, that's a little bit easier to access from a dual role. If it's more about trying to understand some unspoken dynamics that are beneath the surface, that might be a harder ask for a game master to be able to do at the same time.
Interesting. So it's not just one answer. It's a set of things to learn. Interesting. I
learned to respect it enough to be very intentional about when and how to do the dual role and not, which is part of the leadership lesson, I think, in role-playing games, is understanding roles and how we play different roles, and there are multiple ways to play different roles, and having definitions about that.
Good stuff for sure. And Joe, how about a success? A time when, rather than calling out the failure that happened, things actually did go your way. Again, the nth attempt, it doesn't matter. We want to be there and see maybe some of those success factors, perhaps what took you to those lights.
Well, we've had several retreats in the last year, and we're having another one come up in August. The deadline is June 10th for those who are listening to this during that time sphere. But the
2025, by the way.
Yeah, 2025. Yes, there will be future programs, of course, but those aren't set yet. And I would say that is a success, that we, bringing together a core team to develop the method further beyond just, what I was piloting and prototyping several years ago, to now this is a collaborative effort, and I've got some people with really, really amazing combinations of expertise that have been able to transform from we are collaborators to we are a team creating this together. We have a vision and a purpose to bring the power of role-playing games out into the world. And our retreats with ourselves as a team have been transformational for us, both individually and as a group. And that's allowed us to really hone in on this method of how we can help people, whether it's individuals coming to a retreat or teams of senior leaders at a company that hire us for an engagement, that we can really unlock something that's more than gamification, that's personal realization, and also like team culture and group cultures and those types of things. So we saw it work with a client too, which was really fascinating, because we thought we could do it, but to actually change the culture in an organization over the long term, that's a big ask for any leadership consultant. I think most of us will always promise that in our learning outcomes, right? Like, especially if you're doing stuff with play, like build healthy team cultures and psychological safety. But we had a group last year that went through a 3-month program with us, and we applied all the things that we had been learning and developing together. And to hear 6 months later, a year later, from the manager of that organization, that their leadership team is still functioning differently because of the work that we did, and that it has the dynamics that we cultivated together have now kind of carried on and become the dynamics of how they work together. Like, that's the holy grail, I think, to have that actually work, and have them see it and come to me with it, not just me tell them I can see this happening. That was the real success.
Big one, for sure. Good stuff. And from your experience, Joe, you've been doing this for a while. You have a team, you have a method, etc. If you were, somebody comes in with a problem that you can solve through what you do, what are the steps? What's the method? Of course, an overview. I'm sure there's a lot of depth to this. But if we were to have sort of the taglines of all these things, what would that process, that thing be?
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a couple different ones. There are shorter series of workshops which are a little bit more familiar to experiential learning and game-based learning folks, where you focus in on a particular outcome or type of outcome and then design specifically for that, and make it all very experiential, give people a concrete experience to go off of. And so we have a way of developing our games and facilitation plans depending on the context for that. For our larger programs, whether it's a 3-month program where we meet every week or every other week with a team, or where we do a retreat, like a weekend-long retreat, like we're doing in upcoming here, that it's interwoven with experiential learning and leadership coaching, and then the gameplay process of pregame, or session 0 as a lot of people call it, actual gameplay, and then debriefing. And so the leadership coaching process that goes along with that is also an action learning process where you do reflection and intention setting and formation as a group. And so that's some of the session 0 work that you would do, or with a leadership coach, where you might try to explore what are your aspirations and who you are now and how you're trying to get there. What is it that you want to explore is kind of the general question. We do group coaching around that. But that is accomplished partly through coaching conversations and partly through actual session 0 material. So we might talk about creating characters for a game or do some world building exercises together that both function to get us ready for the game. They create game material or characters or so those types of things. But we facilitate them in such a way that they also help us build bonds, create our group formation and psychological safety with us as a group, and some group norms around play and improv and consent and those types of things. So we accomplish both of those things in that first kind of phase of activities. And then the actual gameplay feels just like playing a role-playing game, although we know there are multiple levels of the experience that are all happening at the same time. And so we may be paying attention to the characters and the way they're showing up and helping each other play our characters and our roles in a way that suits our learning goals and intentions for leadership development. Although it looks and feels the same as playing any other RPG. And then the debrief, where we have a structure for reflecting on that. So that's kind of the process in a nutshell.
Sounds brilliant. Thank you for giving us a sneak peek into your mind. And from that process and your experience, is there some sort of best practice, not a silver bullet, of course, but something that works really, really well, or usually at least improves your outcomes?
I think some of the taglines out in the applied RPG world apply, and maybe with a little bit of nuance. So session 0, everyone says, oh, you have to have session 0. Which is this conversation you have about before the game about what kind of game you're going to be playing, what kind of experience you want to have, if there are any limits, things that you don't want to have happen. And there are a bunch of safety tools that can be talked about with that. And those are all very useful. And sometimes we will use those in different ways. And I think to add our best practice to that, because I'm a group coach and a group relations and group dynamics, development facilitator, that what we're also doing is we're creating norms for play and improv together that will serve us both in gameplay and in group coaching later on during a debrief. So we're normalizing having conversations about consent, talking to each other about what is an uncomfortable learning zone for me and what is too uncomfortable and not a learning zone for me. And it's not about knowing that before the game or knowing what's going to happen, but normalizing how to talk about that and getting general ideas of how to support each other in the moment. And so that's part of what we do. And it ranges all the way from, I love horror, so let's do a horror themed game, or I really like, fantasy and dragons and those kinds of things, to deep personal things of I really want to work on this aspect of my development, and so it's going to be really uncomfortable for me. This is all very new for me, but here's what support looks like from the group. So in the game, other characters are invited to maybe present me with certain challenges, or to not be able to do that, or to say pause, is this okay in game, kind of thing. So I think that's a realizing it's very easy for people to separate in-game out of game in their minds, but that's actually not real. We are full people even when we're playing roles, and so there's this combination of separation because you get to be a different character, and you're also having a real experience of a person playing that character, which is why we have these emotional experiences playing games that we thought at the time were more separate than they really are. And so it's kind of a paradox in the work that we do. And I would say being able to attend to all of those levels and to merge back and forth is that's the secret.
Amazing. And after hearing these questions, you were also recommended by a past guest. Is there somebody that you would recommend? Somebody you would say, well, I'd be really curious to hear this person, what they would have to say on an interview like this one, like on Professor Game.
Yeah, well, I have a whole list of people that I collaborate with, so of course I can't name them all that I would name, but some of them have already been on the podcast. One that I will say for now is Heiss. He is from Live Action Learning, operating in Europe, and they do the LARP version of what I do. Basically, is the simple way, probably the oversimplified way to talk about it. And he and I are collaborating on a workshop and a panel at the International Leadership Association that'll be in Prague in October. So that's our next collaboration. But he's doing the LARP version of Lead RPG over. He calls it live action learning. That's his thing. So he's very exciting and fun to work with and to play with.
Nice, very interesting. So Heiss.
Yes. Yeah, the website is liveactionlearning.com, and Heiss is GIJS.
Gotcha. And how about a book? Is there something maybe that guided you, inspired you, or that you read every now and then? I don't know, whatever you want to go for. What would that book be, and why?
I would say of the many books, especially the transformational role-playing books and role-play studies books, is that one that has really captured, I think, a core essence in my approach to this work is the book Playing and Reality by Donald Winnicott. It's an oldie but a goodie. And so he really captures some of the more complex concepts of thinking about play as a developmental phenomenon that's not just the fun and whimsy that we think about it maybe in pop culture, but his ideas about both human development and play are pretty foundational to the work that I do.
Amazing. Good stuff. And in this world of using games for leadership development, or in the general using games for purposes beyond entertainment, what would you say is your superpower? That thing that you do at least better than most other people?
I don't know. Yeah, I think you'd get a better answer asking other people what my superpower was. But I can share an anecdote, because recently we were doing a series of workshops for a professional organization, and some of my team members reflect, because of course working with a team of leadership role-playing game people, it's kind of part of our culture to always be debriefing what's going on and reflecting on our roles and those types of things. It's kind of our hobby too, and so we were debriefing some of the we debriefed every session that we did, of course, as a team, and they were reflecting.
Do you debrief the debriefings as well?
We do. We debrief the debriefs. It's it's all the time. Yeah, it's so fun. And so that's what was happening. They were reflecting how I facilitated one of the debriefs at the at the workshop, and there was a their note to me was a appreciation for how I was tying in a really complex concept and showing what people were saying about their experience and kind of helping put all the pieces together for them to have a really important realization. And so I forget exactly how they described it, but the way of kind of weaving the what I was seeing and what they were reporting in their experience to help them make an insight. So I think they said, I got up in front of the room and all of a sudden, like, I went into facilitator professor mode and just kind of like had the succinct question to ask or something like that, which it is not always that smooth, I will say, but that is the thing that I was shocked by that comment, and it actually warms my heart to hear that from them, because this is the group of people that are my team that I facilitate with, that also ask me questions that make me think and rethink my perspectives. And so to have them reflect that to me was really, really sweet.
Sounds great. And the best place to get that kind of feedback is how my cousin told me, right? It's the actual people you want to get that feedback from.
Yeah, the people that I respect for their ability to do debriefing, so.
And beyond, of course, your own leadership role-playing games, what would you say, Joe, is your favorite? Yeah.
Well, I think in asking that question on this podcast, that it's a little bit of a red herring. That it's right now my favorite game is, or my favorite game of different genres are. So I'll say I have lately been playing a ton of Age of Wonders 4, which is a video game. It's a 4X fantasy game. And I have been really enjoying that. 4X and fantasy games are both like a genre that I always have enjoyed. And right now that one has been taking up a lot of my time, to my delight. So I'll also say recently I played a game called For the Queen. And that is it's a card-based storytelling game for a group. And it is so fun. And of course, I think the group that I played with made a big difference there, because they were awesome to play with. So
groups always do make a big difference in our experience, especially playing games. So there's that.
Yeah. So those are two. How's that?
Joe, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast. I don't know if there's anything else you want to talk about. Is there any final piece of advice, call to action? I don't know, whatever you want to go for. Of course, do let us know where we can find out more about you, about the work that you do, off the retreat for sure, and especially where, if they see it a few days right after or a year after, where they can find out more about your ongoing work in that sense.
Yeah, hopefully we'll have many more programs to come. So finding us on our website, GameNamic.org is the main website. When we have a retreat running, it's GameNamic.org/retreat. But more specifically, there's always GameNamic.org/leadrpg. All our tabs on the site. If you just go to GameNamic.org, you'll find your way around. You'll be able to join an email list there at the bottom of the main page. And you can also find ways to get in contact with me. My email there is drjoe@GameNamic.org. There you can schedule a 30-minute intro consultation through the website. I have a LinkedIn profile, Dr. Joe Lasley, and GameNamic Leadership has a LinkedIn profile as well. And so those are great ways to stay in touch with what we're doing, and either sign up for the current or next best retreat, or get in contact about creating an event or an opportunity for us to engage together.
Absolutely. I'm sure anybody in that space would be super interested in the stuff that you guys are doing, and that seems super, super interesting and very impactful as well. But Joe, even the best things come to an end. So engagers and Joe, at least for now and for today, it is time to say that it's game over. Hey engagers, and thank you for listening to the Professor Game podcast. And since you're interested in this world of creating motivation, engagement, loyalty using game-inspired solutions, how about you join us on our free online community at Professor Game on School. You can find the link right below in the description, but the main thing is to click there, join us. It's a platform called School. It's for free. and you'll find plenty of resources there. We'll be up to date with everything that we're doing, any opportunities that we might have for you. And of course, before you go on to your next mission, before you click continue, please remember to subscribe using your favorite podcast app and listen to the next episode of Professor Game. See you there.